At least one person is reported dead after Russian shells hit an apartment block in the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhzhia. The attack came in the early hours, with 7 rockets landing on the building and trapping residents under the rubble. The city is the capital of Zaporizhzhia region, which was formally annexed by Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier this week. Well, Russia's leader has announced changes to conscription laws as the Kremlin seeks to bolster its military presence on the ground in Ukraine. President Putin has also vowed to stabilize the 4 regions of Ukraine annexed by Moscow earlier this week. Well, let's talk to Sir Tony Brenton, former UK ambassador to Russia. Sir Tony, welcome to the programme. New pictures showing Russian troops dead at the side of the road, abandoned tanks. Just how serious a setback have the recent losses in eastern Ukraine been?
Well, I think very serious. I mean, the Russians now are pretty clearly losing the war. From about the 6th of September, I think it was, when the Ukrainians made their breakthrough near Kharkiv in the north, they've now extended their victories down to Kherson in the south. Now, the Russians still continue to occupy an awful lot of Ukrainian territory, but their forces are demoralized, they're outmanned by the Ukrainians in certain key ways, and they're certainly outgunned by the Ukrainians thanks to the help that the West has supplied to Ukraine. And there are various signs of desperation within the Russian administration. The announcement of the mobilization was, quite a desperate measure considering the opposition it inevitably produced amongst the Russian people. The annexation of those 4 provinces of Ukraine, which is actually meaningless because a large swathe of the territory claims actually under the control of Russia, was an attempt to escalate the confrontation and therefore an attempt to try and intimidate the West. So in every way, it's looking as if the Russians are on the back foot at the moment.
Look, you've worked at the highest echelons of international diplomacy. Talk us through what options President Putin has now open to him.
Well, as I've said, the annexations that have been announced are intended to demonstrate to the West that he's going to stand up till the end. The mobilization is intended to strengthen the Russian army and will to some extent, although there are no people to train these people, there are no arms to supply them with. As your earlier news broadcaster said, they're stepping up their attack on Ukrainian civilian sites as a way of trying to intimidate Ukraine. It is very unlikely that any of this will stop the advance. I think their big hope is that come the winter, the Ukrainian advance will slow down, the Russians will be able to dig in, they will be able to incorporate their reinforcements effectively into their army, and will be able to start with renewed vigor come the spring. My instinct, frankly, is that this could all come to a crisis faster than that allows for.
And when you say this all comes to a crisis, what do you mean by that?
What I mean is that already there is very audible argument in the Russian public space about how badly the war is going, with extreme right-wingers saying we should be doing more. And that audible argument is a demonstration of dissent, in particular, I suspect, in the elite, in the people around Putin. As it becomes clearer to more and more people that Russia is going to lose this war, so more and more people will try to stop it. And if that requires removing Putin, then I suspect they may move in that direction.
What should we make of the possible nuclear weapons threat?
I don't think we should exaggerate it. Obviously, we should do everything we can to avoid what would be the first use of a nuclear weapon since the end of the Second World War. On the other hand, the Russians, though desperate, are not stupid. They're not going to launch a strategic nuclear exchange with the West. What they may be contemplating is the use of a small tactical weapon or weapons in Ukraine itself. It's not obvious how useful those could actually be on the battlefield. And what they would certainly do is provoke a huge reaction, not only in the West, who've already said we will retaliate strongly if they do it, but also in places like China and India, which up until now have been relatively supportive of Russia, but are just as hostile as to the reintroduction of nuclear war onto the planet as we are.
Sir Tony, thank you very much for your time. Sir Tony Brenton, the former UK ambassador to Russia.
Thank you.